So this week we're going to talk about resiliency. Being resilient is one of the career competencies that we have inside of your career competency guide. And we're going to talk about a concept called growth mindset and deliberate practice that really help develop resiliency. But before we dive into that, let's talk about what exactly resiliency is. So resiliency, the textbook definition that you have in your career competency guide, is rebounding from setbacks and adversity when facing difficult situations, right? It's how we bounce back after something bad happens or something happened in a way that we weren't expecting, right? I love this quote by Nelson Mandela. "Don't judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again." Someone who truly, practiced resiliency and became an expert in it. So what does good look like, right? So remember, for all of these career competencies, we want to know, how do I know if I'm good at this? So we have skilled, less skilled, talented. Let's start with the less skilled. So if I'm less skilled, I easily get rattled under high pressure situations. I might panic if I'm in an unfamiliar situation of some kind. I exhibit low energy and motivation anytime that I'm stressed out or worrying. I could be defensive when faced with criticism or roadblocks. Not accepting feedback very well or constructive criticism is a sign of not being very resilient. Sometimes you may take too long to recover from a setback. So if something happened to me, a month ago at work, and it seemed like a big issue at the time, but in the grand scheme of things, it was, wasn't that big of a deal, and I'm still obsessing about it and worrying about it, that could be a sign that I need to work on my resiliency. Let's look at what skilled looks like for this competency. So if you're confident under pressure, if you handle and manage crises effectively, maintain a positive attitude despite adversity, right? So I may be stressed out, but I'm not going to let it show necessarily on my face. I'm not going to let it impact my emotions or how I interact with others in a positive or negative way. Bouncing back from setbacks, growing from hardships and negative experiences. So having those negative experiences, it's part of life. We're never going to go through life and have everything happen just the way that we want it to. The key is that we grow and learn and find ways that we can grow and learn from those setbacks. Okay, if you're really good at this competency, you're able to stay focused and composed in very stressful situations. You take constructive action and navigate difficulties or obstacles. So sometimes, we get that feedback that's really hard to hear, but someone that's really resilient is going to really truly listen to that feedback, take it into consideration, and figure out how they need to adjust their behavior based upon the feedback. Viewed as a source of confidence in high-stress situations. This is the person that everyone goes to when everything goes wrong because they know they're going to be cool, calm, and collected in that situation. Let's talk about possible causes of lower skill. So this is a section in the Career Competency Guide, and it's listed for every single competency. And I think it's really critical to look at it for resiliency, because if this isn't a competency that we're good at, there's more that goes into this competency. So I think it's important to really think about, why am I struggling here? Maybe I don't push hard enough. I could withdraw. I might give up too soon or lack composure. If I'm someone that I let all my emotions, right, I have them on my sleeve, everyone can tell exactly what's going on. I may lose composure or blow up in a meeting. Don't take charge. Maybe they lack passion. Taking things too personally. Everything that I hear constructive, I might be making it all about myself or blaming myself or just taking things way too personally. Freezing when situations change quickly is another one that could happen. Being uncomfortable with rejection. This is an important one. Physical and mental fitness. For me personally, when I don't feel well, when I'm not sleeping right, when I'm not eating well, when I'm not exercising, my resiliency takes a huge, huge hit. And so those are really some of those basic physiological needs that we have. If we go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs that you'll hear about in your management classes, you have to have those basic needs met. So if you find that you're in a week, in a school week, and you've just got a short fuse, and you're blowing up at everything, or everything's irritating you, pause and think, okay, am I getting enough sleep this week? Am I eating well? Am I taking care of my body? Am I taking care of my mind? Because it's very possible that one of those things could be the root cause to you struggling with resiliency that week. Now I'd like to introduce the concept of growth mindset to you. So growth mindset, you may have heard this concept before, and I hope that you have, because it's being incorporated more and more, especially at the K through 12 level. And Dr. Carol Dweck, she is the researcher behind growth mindset, and I'd like to tell you the story about why she got interested in this concept. So Dr. Dweck, when she was in school, it was a while ago, she had a teacher who organized the seating chart in her class by IQ, meaning that every student knew exactly where they sat based upon IQ. And Dr. Dweck was in seat number 1, meaning she had the highest IQ. And she'll tell you, and she explains this in her book, the pressure of being in that seat number 1. She always felt like she constantly had to prove her intelligence. And it would get to the point where she would be afraid to take risks and take on new challenges because if she failed, well, they might think I'm stupid, or maybe I'm not that smart. So that the constant pressure of feeling like, she had to own up, right, to this IQ that she had really made her develop a fixed mindset, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. When Dr. Dweck went on to get her PhD and began researching growth mindset, one of the things that she looked into was the IQ test because of her experience. And what she found is that the IQ test was developed in the 20th century by a Frenchman working with the Paris school system. The IQ test was developed to help identify where the Paris school system was flawed, where it wasn't being effective. So they would have students take the IQ test, figure out where students were struggling, and then adjust the curriculum of the school. The IQ test was never meant to be a permanent measure of intelligence. We've just over time kind of turned it into that. And now what we're seeing is with new research, you can change your IQ and you can change it throughout your life. And we'll talk about that more here in just a little bit. So I'm going to pause the video and we're going to watch another video that goes on to explain the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset.
Researcher and Professor Carol Dweck uses the term mindset to describe the way people think about ability and talent. Dweck delineates between two different mindsets that exist on a continuum. The first is the fixed mindset, which suggests that your abilities are innate and unchangeable. The second is a growth mindset, which views it as something you can improve through practice. In a fixed mindset, you view failure as permanent, but with a growth mindset, you see failure as a chance to learn and even pivot. Those with a fixed mindset are more likely to view critical feedback as a personal attack, while those with a growth mindset will see it as a chance to improve, where they can develop new systems. With a fixed mindset, you're more likely to choose easier tasks and put in minimal effort. After all, if talent is fixed, why bother improving? Why even try? But with a growth mindset, you're more likely to embrace challenging tasks and work hard to improve. Those with a fixed mindset are likely to give up when they face an obstacle. Meanwhile, those with a growth mindset will view obstacles as a chance to experiment and solve problems. In a fixed mindset, the focus is on measurable accomplishments. But with a growth mindset, the focus is more on a journey of continual improvement. With a fixed mindset, you're less likely to take creative risks. But with a growth mindset, creative risks are simply a way to innovate and improve. Ultimately, your mindset influences everything from creative risk-taking to how you view feedback to whether or not you finish difficult tasks. And in the end, it's one of the greatest factors in determining whether or not you grow and improve in your abilities.
So I like that video because it just quickly breaks down the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And the key to remember, so a fixed mindset is I see failure as a limit of my abilities, right? When I mess up, it means that I can't do that thing and I should just quit. Growth mindset means that we see failure as an opportunity to learn and grow. You know what? I failed this time, but now I know what I need to do differently so that I can be more successful next time. Now, one common misconception with growth mindset is there aren't fixed mindset and growth mindset people. Now, we can lean towards one mindset versus the other, but in general, we tend to have a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. The key is to identify where are you having a fixed mindset so that you can think about how you can have a different approach. So the easiest way to really bring this to light is if you think back to when you were a child, did you ever quit anything because you weren't good at it or you didn't think you were good at it? So for me personally, I had a cousin who was a gymnast, and I looked up to her and really just wanted to be just like her when I got bigger. And so I started taking gymnastics class, and I got to do the cartwheel, mastered that, and then we had to do back bends, and I could do that, and back walkovers, and I mastered the back walkover. But then we got to the back handspring, and I tried it a few times, and I struggled. I landed on my head once, and I remember how much it hurt, and eventually I just quit. I quit trying, even though my coach kept saying, Abby, we can do it. We just need more practice. I quit and decided, you know what? I'm not meant to be a gymnast. I'm not going to be like my cousin, and that's okay. But I just quit because I didn't think I could do it. In retrospect, looking at that, I definitely had a fixed mindset. Of course, I could have figured out how to do a back handspring, but it was challenging, and I was probably going to have to work at it a little bit harder than others because it didn't come to me as easily. So identifying where in life you have a fixed mindset and a growth mindset to take advantage of the strengths of the growth mindset and figuring out how we can operate in a different mindset when we have those fixed tendencies that come up. There's a couple research studies that I love to talk about that Carol Dweck did because it really helps emphasize the importance of mindset and also in how we communicate with each other. So I'm assuming most of you aren't parents at this point, but some of you may be, and how you even give feedback to your child, how you give feedback to a classmate or an employee can promote a fixed or a growth mindset. So the first research study that Carol Dweck did is she had a large group of 5-year-olds, and she split them into 2 groups. And you can see the picture of the little boy with the puzzle here, and that's part of that study. And she gave them a puzzle that was difficult to solve, but she knew eventually they would figure it out. So we have the 2 groups over here, and one group, they solve the puzzle, and she goes to them, and she says, "Great job! You figured out the puzzle. You must be really smart at this." Then she goes to the other group. And she said, "Great job. You figured out the puzzle. You must have worked really hard and tried different things until eventually you solved it. Good job." Did you notice the difference in how she praised both of them? Then she came back to the 2 groups and said, "Okay, so now you have a choice. You can do the same puzzle again, or I have another puzzle that's a little bit harder. Which one do you want to do?" So to the group that she praised them for their intelligence, which puzzle do you think that they chose? They chose the same one. Why is that? Well, she told me I'm smart, and I'm really smart at this. If she gives me a harder puzzle and I can't solve it, maybe I'm not smart anymore, right? Versus this group, when she gave them the option, they said, "Well, sure, that was fun. Let's try the harder one and see if we can figure it out." So just how we give feedback to people can help promote a growth or a fixed mindset. So watch next time whenever you say, "Man, you're so smart at this." It could be that they've just worked a little bit harder at it. There was one other study that she did, and it was a nonverbal IQ test to adolescents. And so they took the test and then they scored it. So again, 2 different groups. She goes to this group and says, "Wow, you got 8 out of 10 right. You must be really smart at this." Then she goes to the other group and says, "Wow, you got 8 out of 10 right. You must have worked really hard at these problems." Then the 2 groups had the opportunity to share their experience with other students who didn't take the test. 40% of the students that she praised for intelligence, the 8 out of 10, "Wow, you must be really smart at this," lied about their scores to other students. And they obviously made their score higher. So we took innocent children, and just by incorporating or basically promoting a fixed mindset in them, we turned them into liars. So that's really the power and some of the magic, I guess, behind a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. So one of a very famous leader, so Jack Welch, has a great story about how you can turn a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And Jack, early in his career, he'll admit to you, very much had a fixed mindset. In fact, in 1971, he was up for a promotion at GE, and the head of HR wrote a memo to the person that was going to be promoting him and said, "You should not promote Jack. He's arrogant. He can't take constructive feedback. He relies way too much on his own talent versus hard work, and he doesn't, help develop his team and rely on their strengths." Jack took that feedback, took that hard feedback, and really reflected on himself and then changed his behaviors over time. And now he's one of the most growth mindset leaders that we have out there. So he's a great example of how you can change your mindset if you really work at it. Okay. So hopefully that helps you know how to change your mindset to get better at something. But just changing your mindset alone isn't going to help, or it is going to help, but it's not going to help get you there and help you accomplish your goals. So a lot of times we look at someone and we're like, oh, they're so successful, they've had it so easy. But oftentimes success really kind of looks like the squiggly arrow. There's a lot more failures and setbacks that happen to that person than what we think. So what I want you to do is think about if you could develop any new skill, what would it be? Maybe you're taking a programming class and you're really struggling at it. Maybe you're intimidated by Microsoft Excel. Maybe you want to learn a new language, a foreign language, or you want to become a better public speaker. Some other examples that I hear is that I want to learn how to play the guitar or play the piano. So what I want you to do is right now in the video, in Canvas, I want you to comment where we're at in the video, that you can go down to the bottom and place a comment in there, and I want you to tell me if you could develop any new skill, what would it be? Now your comments, all the rest of the class will get to be able to see these comments as well. So if it's a skill, that you're not comfortable putting in the comments, you can email it to me, but there's going to be some points and extra credit associated with telling me what new skill you want to develop. Okay, did you get it entered? All right, let's go ahead and move on. So what does hard success look like? When we look at some of these people, Michael Jordan, Whitney Houston, we've got Bill Gates and Warren Buffett there, and J.K. Rowling. This is Wolfgang Mozart, and Tiger Woods. If you walked up to any of these people and say, wow, you were just born with such an amazing gift, you might offend, actually probably would offend all of them. Because they weren't born with a natural talent. I mean, they had a lot of hard work that went into developing who they are. Warren Buffett had his first investment. I believe he was 11 years old. He started putting pinball machines in barbershops. Tiger Woods would tell you that his dad started putting in front of him when he was in a high chair when he was just a baby. J.K. Rowling, we know how many rejections that she got before the Harry Potter series went off. Wolfgang Mozart, he was told, it's been told that his fingers were actually deformed from practicing so much. So the whole point being that when we look at someone and think, man, look at their life, I wish I had it, it was so easy for them, dig into their biography because there probably are a lot more setbacks, failures, struggles, and challenges than what we all think. So here's where we come to how do people become experts? Have you ever heard of the 10,000 hour rule? The 10,000 hour rule is something that Malcolm Gladwell talks about in one of his books, and he's a famous author. But I love this little cartoon. It says, studies show that it takes 10,000 hours of practicing to be great at anything. I would think a willingness to do practice of the same thing for 10,000 hours is a mental disorder. That makes me feel better about my mediocrity. You're welcome. So just a funny little cartoon, but the 10,000 hour rule actually was originated by Anders Ericsson, and we'll talk about him for a second. So let me get this straight. 10,000 hours, that's how long it takes to become an expert. So if I sit here and I swing a golf club for 10,000 hours, does that mean that I can be the next Tiger Woods? Not exactly. So let's break that down. So Anders Ericsson was very interested in how people accomplish great things. He wanted to know how experts are made. His most famous study was a study of violinists at a renowned German music academy, and what he found that by age 20, what separated the excellent from the good to the okay violinists was the amount of hours that they practiced. The expert violinist had on average practiced around 10,000 hours. The good violinist had practiced around 8,000. And the okay practiced an average around 6,000 hours. So that's where the 10,000 hour rule originated from.